The name of this tape is Transcending Pain and Suffering. It's a topic that has been near and dear to my heart for the last 30 years. I have practiced, meditated, studied. I've worked with many, many people. And this topic has come up over and over again. Why is there pain and suffering? It seems to be a universal question, and certainly over the millenniums, this question has been asked and addressed. Many attempts to answer this question have come from the many different religions. Every one addresses why is there pain, why is there suffering in our life, and they come up with reasons for it, even possibly some solutions. Many of the different philosophies over the thousands of years have addressed also this topic of pain and suffering in our lives. Certainly all of us can observe that people are unhappy. We ourselves experience unhappiness, that there is a high level of fear. In our society today, you can see this, the tremendous amount of fear. This fear, unfortunately, often leads to violence. So we do live in an era where there is a tremendous amount of violence as well. Many people feel isolated. They feel alone. So many people that I work with share with me that they just don't feel like anyone is there for them. They may even be in a relationship with another person. They might have family, they have friends, but something deep inside is missing. This deep isolation is experienced by many of us. What I'm going to address in this tape is exactly where that isolation comes from, why we do experience pain and suffering, why we are not experiencing greater degrees of satisfaction and fulfillment in our life. What I certainly want to start off by saying is that this state of pain and suffering is not a natural state. It's the absence of something. In a natural state where you're connected to yourself, experiencing your interrelationship, your union or communion with the universe, this state of pain and suffering would not exist. And so we'll look at it in detail and try to go through what the different reasons are. Why do we experience this pain? Infants seem okay. I think that's why we love being around a young child or an infant. They have a certain contentment. You look into their eyes and you go deep inside them. They're present. They make contact with you. When you're interacting with them, you never feel judged. You don't feel as if they are sitting back and looking at you and thinking possibly, I don't know if I care for that person or not. A child is wide open. It's there loving you. It's there caring for you. If there's pain, they even can pick that up. They're very sensitive. They also, maybe for the exception of some domesticated animals that seem to become somewhat neurotic, I think for the most part we can say the animal kingdom is pretty well content, part of the natural order, flowing with life. So it doesn't seem as if emotional pain and suffering is a big problem in the animal kingdom. And certainly there are some adults that when you're with them, you feel comfortable. You feel content and satisfied. And when you're with these people, what I've observed is that there is a deep sense that that person is there with you. So something happens in our life. Something happens that just prevents us from experiencing and being in touch with a place inside that is peaceful, easy, alert, wise, but deeply satisfied and content. Certainly all of us experience moments of ease. It's not that anyone who's listening to this tape could say, I would imagine, that they've never experienced some satisfaction or moments of peace in their life. So my question is, where do these moments come from? That goes along with a question that I'm presenting, which is, where does the pain and suffering come from? One moment you're sitting down, relaxed, easy. The next moment something occurs, and within you comes a deep, deep sense of dissatisfaction, and you begin to suffer. I can remember as a child, and I would imagine I was probably about 5 years old, 6 years old, and I would love at night when everyone was asleep to look out at the stars. I can remember that in my house in New Jersey, North Bergen, New Jersey to be exact, and I'd look out at night, look out my window, up at the stars. Actually, that was a time in New Jersey when you could see stars, giving away my age a bit here. But I would look out and I would think to myself, I wonder what's behind that star. And I wonder what's behind that star. And I would keep doing this till I would put myself into what I now know is a trance or a meditative state. I would become extremely peaceful. My mind would then get to a place where it would be calm, clear. I would experience a state of meditation. I wouldn't realize it. I didn't call it that, certainly at the time. But something inside of me knew that if I would stare out at the stars, if I would direct my mind to think about, I wonder what is beyond, that somehow my mind would become quiet. Little did I know that as a 6-year-old I was teaching myself meditation, that I was using a mantra or just repeating the thought, what's beyond? This thought led me into a quiet place where I experienced that ease. I now know that we're all attracted to that experience, to that feeling. It's a place where we become relaxed inside. That state of ease is very expansive. In the moments where we feel easy, we're more in touch with ourselves. So as a child, certainly all of us as a child knew what we liked and what we didn't like. We knew a state of ease, and we also, of course, experienced a state of pain. But no one was there. No one led us through the experience and helped us to understand how we could. We had the power to move towards ease and peace or move away from it towards pain and suffering. As I grew older, especially as a teenager, I was very depressed and unhappy, dissatisfied. Nothing seemed to be going right for me. I had lost that ability to quiet my mind, to experience a quiet space inside of me. As a teenager, though, I looked around and I saw that my elders were unhappy. Even the religious leaders, they didn't seem to be profoundly peaceful and relaxed. Politicians, everyone around me, seemed to be experiencing a high degree of dis-ease. It seemed that so many were very profoundly unhappy. Why? Why are there moments where we feel peace? And why is there so much emotional pain and suffering in our life? There had to be an answer to this. That led me on this path of inner exploration. The reason I'm sharing this tape and this topic with you, transcending pain and suffering, is because I believe that by understanding what exactly occurs within you that creates the pain and suffering, you will then automatically move in the direction. Open yourself up to the experience of being with your own self, the place where ease and fulfillment, peace and satisfaction exists at all times. In our society, there's certainly two different paths. I look at it that way. There's the path of fulfilling desires. Because this state of pain and suffering is so uncomfortable, everyone immediately looks for some way to get out of it. So most people blame the situation that they're in for being the cause of their pain and suffering. Others may not even blame anything, but begin to move in a direction of sensual pleasure, of fulfilling desires. Others will keep busy. So there's one path of doing, moving in a direction to get away from the pain and suffering. There's another path. I became exposed to this path when I was 21 years old. I went to a lecture, I heard a teacher speak, and by being in the presence of this teacher, I experienced in him a sense of ease. I recognized it immediately. The 2 hours that I was there, it was in New York City, and the lecture was about meditation and yoga. But the person who was speaking, it wasn't so much what he was saying, although there were many profound things he certainly was sharing with us that evening, but it was more his manner. It was more his ease, his relaxed state, his voice. Everything about him exuded peace. I began to study with him. He shared the practices that he himself had mastered, and I began the path of inner exploration. So the second path, the first being once again fulfilling desires, moving in the direction that you believe will make you happy, which in many cases is a reaction to the state of pain and suffering. So you're hoping to leave behind the pain and suffering by moving towards the fulfillment of your desires. The second path, though, is the path of inner exploration, where you realize that at any moment when there is pain and suffering, you can shift your awareness, transcend that state of pain and suffering, and experience a sense of quiet, peaceful ease within you. The path of fulfilling desires, and certainly I've experimented with it and I've gone down it many times. But every time I do move in the direction of fulfilling a desire, what I notice is there's a pressure inside. There is a definite tension. Moving in the direction of inner exploration, of quieting the mind, using breathing exercises, using relaxation techniques, meditation techniques. There's many, many different techniques. But the direction that you're moving towards is to quiet the mind and to begin to experience yourself at a deeper level. An expansion takes place. Something opens up. So these two paths, as I began to experiment with them, and I'm sure as all of you who are listening here, this should hit home. You've also done this experiment, I know that. Working with thousands of people over the years, I have found that this is one thing that is very common. When we're following our desires, even if they're fulfilled, so we get the desire fulfilled, it's only momentary. The release of the pain does occur, there's no doubt about it. You may be longing your friend, your lover, and so you're in deep pain and despair and you're suffering terribly. And then your friend calls and said, okay, it was a silly argument, let's get back together. And all of a sudden the pain disappears, your desire is fulfilled, your friend, your lover is back. Momentary pleasure, momentary ease. So by fulfilling a desire, you get the ease momentarily, and then the dis-ease or the pain and suffering will come back again. So this expansive quality which comes by fulfilling your desire is very momentary. And soon after, a contraction, a tightness, the pain and suffering is back. So when you fulfill desires, you're on the path of momentarily experiencing a release. The path that I'm sharing with you of inner exploration is one that I find that as long as you are focusing on it and practicing, you notice an easiness inside of you, a peacefulness, a relaxed state, a sense of expansion. This is important. Do you know, are you aware when you expand, when everything inside of you gets quiet, when that relaxed, flowing, easy state is attained? And do you know when you begin to contract, get uptight? Are you aware enough to recognize these two states? Because it's very important, and I'll discuss this as we go on in this tape, how important it is to understand these two states of consciousness. You deserve to experience your own true nature. That true nature includes a quiet mind, a healthy body, a sense of ease, a sense of relaxation inside of you. It's a very dynamic state. When the mind is clear, that aware part of you will always lead you in a direction of expansion. The momentary release of pain when you fulfill a desire, although it feels good, get ready, you're on a roller coaster, because soon after you're going to go back into that state of pain, of suffering. Everyone knows these two states of expansion and contraction. Everyone knows that they enjoy, they're comfortable with expanding. And certainly everyone is aware that when they're tight, when things inside of them contract, they want to release it immediately to get out of that experience. It's interesting because the expansive state and the contracting state, which occur within us every day, can be controlled. By connecting to yourself, what you find is that there's less contraction. Automatically, you begin to realize, I can do something to open myself up and transcend this state of discomfort, this pain, this suffering. There's many theories about contraction. There's many theories about pain and suffering. Original sin, which in the Judeo-Christian tradition certainly is talked about. Life is painful. There's many philosophies and religions that teach that. That suffering is a natural state. Now, if you believe that suffering is a natural state, well, then what you're going to have to do is find some way to at least reduce it. And in our society, as you look around, certainly what you can see is people are attempting to get as much pleasure as possible. Sensual pleasure. No doubt that when you experience moments of pleasure, it does reduce the experience of suffering. But the amount of energy that it takes to move in the direction of pleasure, you expend an enormous amount of energy. It never releases you, or it never allows you to transcend the suffering completely. We live in a society that teaches you, use your body, exercise, watch your diet, or maybe the opposite, don't exercise, eat whatever you'd like. Many different theories. But one thing for sure, our society teaches us if you keep busy, keep active, it will reduce the amount of suffering that you will experience. If you're not busy, which unfortunately we call bored, but if you're not busy, if you're not doing something, in that moment of stillness, a door opens. And with practice, you can learn how to walk through that door and experience yourself at a deeper level. That is the path of inner exploration. And within that stillness, you will experience, with practice, the state of expansion. So it gets very exciting because you realize if you follow the desires, if you go after pleasure, if you're keeping yourself busy, whether that be with work, with jobs, with family, with activity, vacations, by keeping busy, by keeping yourself constantly active, you expend an enormous amount of energy, and you will be successful in numbing yourself to the experience of pain and suffering. So we are teaching our children in our society, keep active, keep busy. Doing is important. What I would like to suggest to you is that not obviously to stop doing in your life. That's part of the joy of being. However, take some time and explore the stillness within you. Take some time and experience that place inside which expands, becomes open, where there is a deep sense of satisfaction and peace. It's within everyone. It's not for a chosen few. But the more active the mind, the less you will experience that peaceful place inside. The more agitated your body, the less you will experience a sense of ease. It's a very simple formula. It is not difficult. And all of us, there isn't one person that I've met that has said to me, I do not enjoy this state of relaxation. Not one person has ever said to me that I enjoy the state of pain and suffering. All of us are aware that we do not want to suffer. It's just that we may employ methods to remove the suffering that in fact never remove it. They keep us on an endless cycle of fulfilling a desire, resting a moment, then cycling back into dissatisfaction. What I will share with you next is how to live your life in such a way where you are aware when the pain and suffering begins to arise. You will know why it is there. You will understand it. You will know the cause of the pain and suffering. And not just knowing the cause of the pain and suffering, but that will remind you of the direction you need to take, the direction towards your own self. Many people are attempting to remove that loneliness, that isolation that we spoke about earlier in the tape, by looking outside themselves. They truly believe that if they get some experience, they will feel better. If they connect with that special person, they will feel better. If they have that special dinner and go out with friends and have a glass of wine and enjoy themselves, that will remove the pain and suffering. And please know, I'm not saying that we shouldn't enjoy ourselves. I'm not saying that it isn't so much fun to go out with friends and have a wonderful evening. Not at all. We do that regularly. But what I am saying is, I don't expect that if I'm experiencing some pain, if I'm experiencing emotional distress, that it's, number one, caused by something outside of me, number two, can be removed by interacting with something outside of me. I have become convinced that when I'm suffering, I need to make a change. I need to shift my awareness, connect back to myself, and thus I become less dependent on the world. So doing and being, agitation and resting in yourself, contraction and expansion. The purpose of this tape is to teach you how to dance in the world, to enjoy yourself, to be able to tell when you're moving in a direction where you will not be fulfilled. And in recognizing that, to become the master of your life, shift direction, make a course direction, and move in a direction where you will then experience the vast fullness which lies within you. The ancient science of Vedanta, the Vedantic philosophy, which I call the science of oneness, teaches that there is a source from which all of us have come from. All of us originate from this source. So there is an underlying reality. This underlying reality is one which every time you experience it, every time you open up to it, satisfaction is experienced, a definite state of peace is attained, the mind becomes very clear, you experience unity, you experience yourself in communion with the world around you. Now that's not something you do. You don't think yourself into that state of communion and unity. It is an experience that automatically comes to you. So if you somehow go into a freezer, I think of those big freezers in the supermarkets where all the vegetables, frozen vegetables are kept, and you walk in there and the door closes, you will automatically experience coolness. Remain in there a little bit longer, you'll get cold. Why? Because it's the very nature of that particular compartment to be cold. And the opposite's true. If you walk out down south into the sun in August, you're going to experience heat. You can't help that. It's the nature of the sun to warm you, to heat you up. So when you go into the cooler, you get cold. When you go out into the sun, you're warmed. The same way, when you experience this underlying reality, when you go back to the source, you experience automatically satisfaction, peace, communion, a state of oneness. When you are not connected to or experiencing that underlying reality, that source from which you arise out of, you experience loneliness. You experience a sense of dis-ease. The theory of Vedanta teaches that this underlying reality can be tapped into. It's your source, it's there. I can remember as a child, something that may help you to understand this. As a child, I used to have this little imaginary world. And I had this little world organized in such a way that all of us, all the people on the planet, all the animals, everything had little pneumatic tubes coming out of them, and it would go up into the sky, into the clouds. Then, on the other side of the clouds, there was this huge generator that would pump air into the tubes. Now, this probably comes from back in my time. We had little frogs that had a little tube and a little bulb at the end, and you would squeeze the bulb, some air would go down the tube into the frog, and the frog would move, the little plastic rubber frog. So this is probably where it came from. But I imagined that everyone had these tubes connected to this generator up in the sky. The air would come through, and that's what allowed everyone to be able to walk and to talk and to live their lives. What I didn't know then was it actually was a very profound awareness on my part. Even though as a little child I didn't understand it, somehow I had tapped into the Vedantic philosophy, which teaches everything is sourced from that one space. And so all of us, although we have different bodies, although certainly our minds are much different, our experiences are different, but we're sourced from a place where we're all connected. That source, when it flows into us, allows us to live our life. It brings awareness to our life. We love Bali. We've traveled to Bali 4 times. It's a beautiful, beautiful country. And as you go into the interior area of Bali, the large mountains, and they have many terraced rice fields, rice paddies. Just absolutely beautiful. Now, they start the water at the top, and the water starts to come down. Now, the water's flowing automatically from above to below. So they close off or dam a section of the terraced rice paddy, and the water fills up. Then when it fills up, there's a little dam that they have, a little piece of wood, and they remove it, and the water flows down to the next rice paddy, filling that up, and it goes all the way down. It's a natural flow. Water will go from a higher level to a lower level. Now, if you were to block that flow, so the water's flowing in, and you would block it, well, the water would build up and it would overflow. So in our example, let's say that you start to dam it up further, and the water's still flowing in, and dam it up further. It's going to build up a tremendous amount of pressure. So the water begins to back up. It puts pressure on the dam. And then you have to put more effort in holding the water back. You may have to reinforce it. Bring in bamboo poles, hold back the water. And so as this water continues, because it's the nature of this water to flow, you would have to put a lot of effort, a lot of energy into damming up, blocking the natural flow of the water down through the different levels of the rice paddies. So if you can just imagine this now, here it is that the top section of this mountain, the rice paddy, we're building up a larger and larger dam, pushing back the water. And so the water, number one, isn't flowing. So the rice paddies below are becoming very dry. They're not getting the proper amount of nourishment from the water. So the rice isn't growing. And number two, we have to put a tremendous amount of energy into holding back that flow. We are all connected to a state of consciousness, of awareness, that is vast and infinite. Every one of us has a tremendous amount of wisdom within us. We only have to learn how to open the channel to allow that wisdom, that energy, that awareness to flow through. So the work is to open yourself up to that which you are. And we'll discuss that further on side 2. The work then to transcend pain and suffering is to connect to the source. But actually, that's not a correct way of stating it, because you are always connected to it. It's just that the channel which allows that source in the form of consciousness, awareness, love, wisdom, that channel has somehow been blocked. Unknowingly, what you've done in your life has decreased the opening of that channel. So if we open the channel, you will experience once again your own true nature. So your personality, your mind, and your body are conduits. They're channels which allow your true self as awareness to flow through. And that's why as we get older, our bodies change, our personalities can change, but yet the very essence of who we are never changes. And I have clients that are in their late 80s, and they say, it's very interesting, Gary. I feel so relaxed. I feel so comfortable in myself. I've always been this person, but my body has changed so much. So your body is a conduit. Your mind and your personality are conduits, which allows this awareness to flow. So what are you doing in your life to keep yourself connected to yourself? And what are you doing in your life which disconnects you from it? What I'm about to tell you now changed my life when I first was exposed to it. When you're disconnected from your true self, you are going to experience the following. Loneliness is the first experience that everyone has when they're not connected to themselves. They feel separate. They feel a deep longing inside of them that something is wrong. Second thing that they experience is a deep desire to do something to remove that feeling of separation. So the first experience when you're not connected to yourself is a feeling of loneliness, isolation. It can be in varying degrees, but some feeling of separateness. Then the second experience that occurs is a deep desire to somehow experience something to feel better. The third experience that you will have, if this channel is blocked, if it's not clearly open, if you're only getting a trickle of yourself through, you will experience a definite sense of avoidance, aversion, which means you will start blaming something for being the cause of your problems. So we have first, loneliness. Second, we have a desire to experience something to remove this pain and suffering. Thirdly, you begin to blame things, situations, other people for being the cause of your problem. And then finally, you get the fourth experience. This sense of isolation turns into fear. When you are connected to yourself, loneliness dissolves. You feel a definite sense of unity. You're not desiring to have something to take away the pain because you're in a state of satisfaction. You're not blaming anyone for being the cause of your problem. You own it, accept it, and dissolve it. And finally, because you're experiencing this connectedness, this feeling of oneness, fear no longer exists in your life. So when you're connected to yourself, you feel and experience a sense of ease. However, when that conduit, when that channel gets blocked, for whatever reason, but when it does get blocked and you're not experiencing yourself, what you will experience is loneliness, desire, aversion or blame, and finally fear. These experiences automatically occur. You cannot avoid them. So when you are disconnected from yourself, you are going to experience it in some degree. Now, fear may be dormant. So you may be experiencing loneliness And then from the loneliness, you might blame the absence of your friend for being the cause of the loneliness. And you'll get caught up in a very vicious cycle. You'll be looking outside of yourself. You'll be attempting to get away from this feeling of suffering and pain by reaching outside yourself. So it's important to understand that you are a very beautiful being, that within you lies an infinite amount of peace. You are a wise being, but we have to clear that channel. We have to allow that wisdom and peace, that awareness to flow through you. And in our society, we are taught from the time we're very young that it's how much you do, it's how much you have, it's how much you experience that's important. Very few of us have been exposed to this completely different philosophy, which states that within you is everything you're already looking for. So as you begin to shift your attention and take some time during the day to explore yourself, take some time during the day to open that channel. Because when that channel is opened, or when you're connected to yourself, the loneliness will dissolve. You'll feel connected. Whether you have a relationship with someone or not doesn't matter. You will be feeling complete and full. And as a matter of fact, when you then get into a relationship, you bring satisfaction, you bring fulfillment, you bring fullness to the relationship. Whereas for most people, they are hoping that the relationship will give them fullness. And that's why I'm sure the divorce rate in our society, first-time marriages, is over 50%. Because people are looking outside of themselves for that which exists only within them. So if you are connected to yourself, you begin to experience the world in a completely different manner. But if you are not connected, one of those four are going to arrive. In the ancient Vedantic philosophy, this disconnected state is called avidya, without knowledge. And when avidya arrives, you experience asmita, loneliness, separation. Rag, a desire to do something, to experience something, to remove the pain. Dvesh, you blame something for being the cause of your problem, instead of realizing that what's really happening is you're not connected to fulfillment. And because you're not experiencing fulfillment and satisfaction, you're going to blame the lack of work, the low salary. You're going to blame your friend for the attitude that they have with you. That's the reason that you're suffering. Not that you're not connected, but that this person is the cause. And then finally, in the Vedantic tradition, when avidya arrives, when this disconnected state occurs, abhinivesh arrives, and that's fear. Now, what's interesting about these four, asmita, raga, dvesh, abhinivesh, is when you invite one in, look out, because the other three are going to come in with them. So it's like you invite a friend over for dinner, and little do you know, when you open the door, instead of the friend, three other people arrive with them, and they're sitting around at the table, causing havoc in your life. Asmita, loneliness. We all know that experience. We all know what it feels like to be separate. Yet, what I would like you to do is the next time you're experiencing this feeling of separation or loneliness, stop for a moment. Sit quietly and close your eyes. Begin to breathe deeply. You can practice this now. So breathe in deeply and exhale out slowly. And as you're breathing into this feeling of loneliness, direct the breath right into the center core of the loneliness. And as you exhale, begin to relax your body. So you're breathing in deeply and exhaling out slowly. Begin to calm the agitation. The mind will always tell you, when you're experiencing this state of separation, that the cause of the separation is, and it will come up with many reasons. What you have to do is somehow disengage that thinking process and calm the agitated mind. The breath will help you. There are many meditation techniques which will aid you in this process. But the key is to not go off thinking that the true reason that you're experiencing this loneliness is because your friend is no longer in your life or your loved one has died. No doubt we can miss, but that profound feeling of separation is not due to the death of a family member, the loss of a friend, the breakup of a marriage. It's due to the fact that you are not established in your own self. If you were established in yourself, there would be loss, there would be sadness, but you would still have a sense of stability and ease. And so many people are out there attempting to follow their desires because they believe that if they get that new car, that if they go out to dinner, that if the increase in salary arrives, if they make it big and hit the lotto, then they're going to be happy. And desire is very interesting because it's within the mind. It's a thought that you have. The thought says, I'm not happy now. If I have something else, I will be happy. And even when that thought reaches its fruition, so let's say the desire is actually experienced, you go out and you have the dinner. It does not remove the separate state. It does not connect you back to yourself. So at some point, that momentary experience of fulfilling a desire will fade away and you will go back into that avidya, that disconnected experience, and once again you will feel dissatisfied. And whenever you blame your friend for being the cause of your problem, not only are you not acknowledging that the problem itself exists within you, and it's not that you're not a good person, it's just that you're not connected. The channel isn't open. That self isn't flowing through. So the disconnected state is giving you such a feeling of emptiness, of agitation. It would be so easy to blame your friend, your lover, your boss for being the cause of that problem. But what I'd like you now to do is when you feel that someone has hurt you, sit and close your eyes, find a quiet place, go back to that deep breathing. Learn some meditation techniques. Because as you quiet your mind, clarity and wisdom will come through. As you connect back to yourself, you will become clear. It may be that your friend, in fact, did something that needs to be discussed. A boundary was crossed. But in the clarity, when you're experiencing yourself, you can deal with that issue in a completely different way than you would if you were agitated, if you were disconnected from yourself. So self is the source of power, of wisdom. When that channel is open, you will experience a completely different life. And then finally, when you're not connected to yourself, you feel victimized. This feeling of victimization leads to insecurity, which can easily lead to fear. And so many of the people that I work with and that I see around me are fear-stricken. Maybe little fears. Just afraid, will I have enough money as I get older? Or afraid of my relationship ending at some point. Or maybe they're large fears, paranoia, the inability to even leave your house. But they're all due to this one factor: the disconnection to your own self. This one point is so important to know. Within you is an awareness, a consciousness, which gives you the wisdom to lead your life fully and freely. This part of you, which we call self, is fully present in every individual. The question comes down to, once again, what is it that we do which prevents us from experiencing this state, which is always fully present and available? What blocks that channel? And as soon as we're disconnected, as soon as that occurs, in that very moment, you will experience to some degree one of those 4 points, one of those 4 states: asmita, a sense of separateness; rag, a desire to get out of the discomfort, a desire to do something to feel better; and dvesh, the feeling that absolutely something outside of you is the cause for your problems. You're convinced that that person or that situation created this feeling that you're now experiencing. We call that aversion. It could be called blame. And finally, abhinivesh, fear. When you're living in a world where you don't have a sense of communion, a sense of stability, a deep inner sense of security, some people might call that faith, you will experience a tremendous amount of fear. So it all comes back down to a very simple point. The key to life is to be connected to yourself. If first you get that connection, if you work at it, and no doubt that takes some work, no doubt that it's going to take some effort. You have to work on your body so your body's healthy. When the endocrine system, when your glands are producing the chemicals that are necessary to keep the body healthy, when the muscles are toned, when the brain is working properly, the nervous system is strong, your breathing is deep, you're getting enough oxygen into your body, the fuel is pure, so the body is operating in a manner that it was designed to. The physical body does impact, no doubt, the state of consciousness that you experience every moment. And then, of course, you work on your mind. You begin to recognize some of the patterns that bring you away from yourself. You begin to see what agitates you, what gets you into a state of disconnection. And you begin to bring more and more awareness to those patterns. And then also you concentrate the mind. That's a very important factor. Unfortunately, not focused on enough in our educational system nor in our society. When the mind is focused, when the mind is clear, which means concentrated, you will not experience a state of agitation. I believe that's one of the reasons why so many people are addicted to television or to going to movies, to somehow get their mind focused. Because when the mind is concentrated, there are less waves in the mind, and so the wave-less mind is a more peaceful mind. So the body being healthy, the mind being clear, less agitated, more concentrated, that's the formula. Just like H2O creates water. The formula is a healthy body, strong body, a clear mind, a concentrated mind will immediately open that channel and allow you to experience your own true self, the essential part of you, the very source of your life. That self is completely in harmony with that underlying reality we spoke about in the beginning of this tape. So there is a beautiful, beautiful connection that is present within us, that source sending out the consciousness that allows us to experience ourselves, which then activates the mind, which allows a subject-object world, a world of forms, a world of experiences to unfold. And that mind then activates the brain, the nervous system, the body, which then can go out and experience the world via the senses. The purpose of life, then, is to take the time to focus on yourself, to strengthen that part of you, just as you might go to a gym to strengthen the muscles in your body, to strengthen your heart, just as you might work with your mind to learn how to concentrate and learn, grow. In the same way, we need to daily close the eyes, place the attention inward. Take that inward journey of focusing on your own self. By focusing on yourself, you will connect to that source, that underlying reality. By opening that channel, allowing that awareness to flow into you. Wisdom, intuition, knowledge, intelligence, health, an abundance of energy. You will experience so much more than you could ever realize. So take that time. What I tried to share with you on this tape was most of what we experience in life in the form of agitation, pain, and suffering can be transcended. We can bring into our life an awareness that will allow us to deal with these situations. You certainly can't get rid of stress. You certainly can't control your life so sadness or any of the emotions disappear. Life presents that to us. Being a human being means we'll have to deal with all of those situations. What I'm speaking about is your relationship to those situations will be transformed. You will be able to survive the sadness, the loss of a loved one. You'll be able to handle disease, sickness. You'll be able to deal with the loss of a job because you will not lose yourself. You will bring yourself to those situations. However, when you're disconnected from yourself, those same situations take on a completely different intensity. They can be overwhelming, overpowering. You deserve that connection. It's your birthright. If you take the time, I can promise you that you will see the results. Now, connecting to the self means to meditate. The word meditation literally means to focus on the self. So we end this tape with a meditation, sitting comfortably. Lean back, rest your head. Close the eyes and begin to take slow, deep breaths. And as you exhale, slowly exhale out the tension of the day, any tightness or discomfort in your body. So deep breath in through the nose and a slow, gentle breath out through the nose. So let go. Breathing in deeply and exhale out slowly. As you breathe in, observe the movement of the breath. As you breathe out, the aware part of you watches the breath flowing out. With each breath, be present. With each breath, notice and be aware. The increase in oxygen relaxes your body. The first step of our formula, comfortable body. Concentrating on the movement of the breath focuses your mind. The second part of our formula. Relaxed body, concentrated mind, and a beautiful calmness will begin to unfold within you. So as you're breathing and as your mind focuses on that breath, listen to the sound of the breath, the flow of air, the life force coming into you, filling you, and then exhale and listen to the sound of the breath as it leaves your body, releasing tension, releasing agitation. And that flow of breath will take you to a quiet stillness within you. It may happen in this moment. It may take some practice. But you have begun the journey. So much of your day, you go outward into the world. Now you're taking the time to reverse that process and look inward and experience that vast, quiet stillness within. You are in the process of connecting to your own true self. And just as sleep comes comes to you, so does the self. So just as you prepare yourself to go into sleep, you are now preparing yourself to go into meditation. You are sitting quietly and awaiting the stillness of yourself to appear. Be patient. Enjoy the ride. There is a vast universe within you, a universe filled with satisfaction, fulfillment, clarity, and an abundance of energy. Without effort, this is the part of your day where there is nothing to do but to surrender to your own self. So the gentle flow of breaths may become more shallow. Remain aware and watch the shallow, gentle breath flowing in and flowing out. Listen closely for the sound of the breath. The breath is the vehicle that will help you connect to yourself. You're calming the agitation. You're opening that channel, allowing that vast wisdom and intelligence to flow into you. Notice, be aware of this quiet, relaxed state that you are now attaining. Gentle breaths, awareness unfolding. If thoughts enter into your mind, they may distract you for a moment. Gently, without judgment, return back and listen to the sound of the breath. And now quietly repeat so hum, so hum. Silently repeat so hum. I am so hum. So hum means I am. I am that self. I am that essence of awareness. I am pure consciousness. I am the one who enters into the mind, activating my personality and thoughts. I am the knower of my mind. So hum, so hum. And as you repeat it silently, concentrate on the vibration of that sound. So hum. Be aware of the stillness that unfolds within you as you repeat it, and follow the vibration of it, for it will bring you back so that you can experience fully your own true self. So as we conclude this program, remain focusing on that stillness if you would like.